Regulatory consensus and scientific consensus are not the same thing. There is a big difference between a regulatory consensus and a scientific consensus. These are not the same thing, and historically, regulatory bodies have often lagged behind emerging scientific evidence, sometimes for decades, especially when industry influence is involved. Regulatory consensus does not equal scientific truth. Historical examples. The Church once declared the Earth the center of the universe, despite overwhelming astronomical evidence to the contrary. The tobacco industry successfully stalled regulation for decades, even when research clearly linked smoking to lung cancer. The lead industry fought against removing lead from gasoline, even as studies showed clear neurotoxic effects on children. The sugar industry influenced dietary guidelines for decades, diverting attention from its role in metabolic diseases. The same playbook is being used now with wireless radiation. What the scientific consensus actually says. Thousands of studies document non-thermal biological effects from RF exposure. These include DNA damage and oxidative stress, as shown by the National Toxicology Program, Ramazzini Institute, and Reflex Project. There's also neurological disruption, highlighted by Dr. Martin Paul's research on voltage-gated calcium channels. Hormonal and reproductive harm is another concern, with studies like Agarwal et al. 2008 showing sperm damage and the Yale ADHD mouse study. Increased cancer risks are also documented, with the NTP's 2018 study finding clear evidence of carcinogenicity. These findings are well documented in scientific literature, yet regulatory agencies continue to ignore them. Industry capture: how agencies protect the status quo. The FCC's thermal-only guidelines were created by engineers, not medical experts. No epidemiologists or biologists were involved in setting the original safety limits. The 2021 court ruling confirmed that the FCC had no scientific basis for maintaining these guidelines. The telecom industry funds research that downplays risks, just like big tobacco and big oil did before. This is textbook regulatory capture. Agencies designed to protect public health instead work to protect industry profits. What needs to happen? Regulatory agencies must be held accountable. Just as Public Law 9602 was ignored, the NTP was shut down instead of being funded to continue research. The regulatory consensus is an illusion. The true scientific consensus recognizes non-thermal harm. The burden of proof must shift. Instead of the public proving harm, industry should have to prove long-term safety, beyond outdated thermal standards. Independent research must be prioritized. No more industry-controlled studies skewing the data. We need to stop treating the regulatory consensus as if it's gospel truth. Science evolves. The regulatory world needs to catch up before more harm is done. So, let's move beyond questioning the unscientific consensus. It's time to dismantle it. Visit RF Safe to learn more.